Effectively what we've been doing with the building now, it's been under this box for the best part of 4.5 years. So it's had time to dry out on the outer skin of it. It's just the middle, which is our concern. But what we're doing, there are points where we've actually taken off the hull and we've excavated into the wall to the middle of the wall. So we've taken all these trial areas, there's 5 or 6 of them, between ground floor and first floor. And the reason for that is that then we hit the basically the ceilings where the timber's coming through. We can see the impact on any of the moisture over the years on beam ends, seeing if there's any rot or any decay in the timber, which is obviously important for us to know for all sorts of reasons, but also to find out if it's still active. We've been able to take measurements about how damp or otherwise. Actually, when we opened this out in May of this year, we found everything was so dry, it was almost too dry. So the lime itself was almost desiccated. It was just coming out, it's falling out like an hourglass, you know, it was actually just kind of coming out like sand. So what's happened there is that the water has got in at some point in the past, or in many points in the past. It has wet, totally saturated that interior stonework and the lime that it has been bedded on, and then it's dried out over periods, and that drying out process now it's just taken it back to its natural state. It's gone back into sand in many areas. So we know that what we will have to do when a lot of this rough cast comes off, and a lot of it, we've tested it, a lot of it is bossed, which is, it's detached from the face of the stone. It's hanging there by gravity, really. When we take that off, and it'll be quite easy to come off, we will have to do a lot of pointing on the stonework again. And we've taken samples of stone, render, the kind of paint covering over the rough cast, I should say, as well. The brick, because some areas are brick, like chimneys are brick, wall head tops are brick, and the pointing is all lime, but again, to find out just what the matrix of that is, the makeup of it. So we will know what we think is original, what has been patched. We have an area where we think we have some original rough cast, just one small area. It's probably only about 4 meters wide by 1 meter high, but it's an area that was covered over quite quickly after the original build. So we'll find out the original, we'll find out what the performance characteristics of all those materials are, and then we're looking to see how we best replace the rough cast. So my hope at the moment is that what we'll be able to do quite soon is get to the final act, in a way, which is to get the defective render off. We know that most of this has been patched over the years, so there's very little original anyway. We'll get off the stuff that is actually now debonded anyway and take all of that away, allow the last act of breathing out of the building, and then we will repoint it in lime. That's the easy bit, really. Hope that will allow the capillary action to happen in the building, in the stonework itself, to just allow a really natural flow of any remaining moisture in the walls to the outside rather than the inside, while this box is still over us, thank goodness. And then we'll keep that pointing slightly recessed so that it will become the key for the new hull that goes on. So the new rough cast will have, you know, recesses to grip into. We'll build up the scratch coat, the finishing coat, and then it will have an aggregate put into that last coat, and then a final coat of cement wash, or a grey wash anyway, because originally Blackie and Macintosh, I think, who's quite honest to his materials in many ways, wanted a grey effect, which in the right light can be quite luminous almost. I haven't seen that yet because we've got later colours on here just now, so it's cream or off-white, quite attractive, but I don't think it's the original colour. Colour is going to be one of the big things we're going to look at, both on the outside of the building and including things like window frames. Is that correct? I don't know. We need to do most scrapes, and on the inside. The windows are going to be an issue because we have our biggest, well, there's hundreds of them, as ever. Very few are matches for anything else. They're all different sizes, all different opening mechanisms. We've got leaded lights here. We have timber sash and case. We've got hopper openings, casements in the children's bedroom. So we've got all different types and styles. I think we'll be working with, you know, a few very skilled craftspeople to work through these windows on a case-by-case basis. The last thing I want to see is a big company comes in and says, we'll do the windows. I think this is going to be one by one. Look at it, take off the paint, take out the putty, it's all cracked anyway. Look at the opening mechanisms and the window ironmongery, and look at, you know, getting them working again. because the original photos of the building, all taken in the summer when the sun shone, but it did show all the windows always open in the building, and you realise that combined with chimney flues, there was a huge amount of natural ventilation that went on in this building originally, and we're so used to just clamping down, shutting down, and a lot of the chimneys are sealed, as you know, both top at the flues and from the chimney pieces themselves. So the natural equilibrium of this building hasn't been functioning as it was intended for decades and decades and decades. So that has to be addressed. One of the things we've spoken about is that we can't make changes that you would normally do in a new building where you'd want to triple glaze and have argon filled, you know, sash and case or whatever it is. We won't be doing that here. Part of the beauty of this building and the character is that this very, very fragile, slim frames and glass, and obviously none of it's double glazed or triple glazed. So we will have to, you know, accept a lot of loss will come through the windows, no matter how well they snugly fit in their frames in the future. But what we'll have to look at is the fact that the grid itself that supplies the energy to run buildings like this will become more and more decarbonised, so that we will be looking at renewable electricity through wind or solar or hydro in Scotland sometimes, not locally, but we'll be looking at renewable energy coming in that will actually at least mean we're not creating carbon in the production of that electricity that will come in to heat the house, and we'll have to accept the house will still be a quite heavily energy reliant building. However, it's not lived in. We would have it at a steady heat level for visitors, which is only about 11 or 12 degrees. It's not like we would expect in a home. And even then, there will be areas we'll be able to improve. So the lighting will be able to be LED, or it will be dynamically controlled. Some areas won't be on when they don't need to be, etc. But that will be an interesting conundrum, and one that the Trust as a whole, and the world as a whole anyway, has to be never pay lip service to in any project. You know, it shouldn't have for many years back either, but we mean it. You know, we want this to be as sustainable as we can. Even, it might seem a small thing, but even when this render comes off, it'll fill a lot of skips. And it's mainly inert material. The only thing we'll have to look at is what the paint constituents are, but it's sand and cement and grit, basically. So, albeit that's quite alkaline. So we wouldn't want it near plants, but we could use it for path building. So we'll probably use it locally to do type 1, have a crusher on site. There's, you know, the last thing, a few years ago even, you were just having a contract, take it off, fill a skip, take it to landfill. But actually we'll just have a crusher on site. We'll use it for path building at the back and things like that as a sub-base to a path. But everything we need to think about what we can reuse and how we're going to reuse it, even the box. So the box is a huge Meccano kit of fantastic steel and stainless steel mesh. So there's a massive energy embodied in the box itself, and whether we can reuse that in another form or 2 or 3 different forms elsewhere, or whether it gets sold as steel, you know, that I suppose, but not crushed and recycled. I think most of the components in here are reusable, other than bolts and fixings, those wouldn't be reused. So that will be an exercise, an exciting one for somebody down the line, I think, to look at how we reuse the components of the box as well when that comes down.